Hey everyone, I'm Phil. I'm a filmmaker, storyteller, general creative, and a second-year medical student. And I am taking step 1 in T-minus 7 weeks now. And this is my step vlog. So contrary to popular opinion, I actually don't talk about step that much on this step update vlog. One of my friends told me that they don't watch my videos because they don't want to hear all the step talk. But really, all I really do is talk about my basic updates on my cards and my questions. And then after that, I just talk about my life and interesting things that I've seen or watched or listened to. And I try to put little timestamps in the description box so people can just skip ahead so that they don't feel stressed out by step talk. So yeah, this announcement is for you, my friend. Yeah, skip ahead 30 seconds to not hear my step updates. All right, so here's a brief update. In terms of cards, on Scholar RX, I have 37 due cards, 1,233 overdue cards, and 11,620 unseen cards. So an improvement over last week. Still going a little too slow on the cards. Am I stressed about it? A little bit, but no worries. I'll get it together pretty quickly. UWorld questions are not as bad. Those are going consistently. I've used 407 questions and I have 2,471 questions to go. All right, so those are my step updates. My life and well-being updates. I'm feeling pretty good, as you can see. It's pretty bright outside. The days are getting longer. Daylight savings is coming pretty soon, and I'm feeling pretty energized by all of this light. And I'm excited to definitely get more hours in the day that are filled with sun. Also, sometime in this week was my birthday, and it was pretty low-key. You know, I'm very, very grateful to the people who made that day very special. From the people who greeted me, just said hello, to the people who put themselves up for potential embarrassment just to make me feel special. I think that speaks a lot, and I really appreciate that. You know, to the people who arranged like a nice night of karaoke, and yeah, and to the people who just shared time and space with me. It just made me feel very warm and very special. So that was a great time. I got a couple gifts and I'm pretty excited about them. So I got this, which is Keep Going by Austin Kleon. 10 Ways to Stay Creative in Good Times and Bad. I actually didn't know that he had a third book. I've actually been talking about him like from the very first vlog that I did. So people must think I'm obsessed with this author. I haven't read this yet, but I have a feeling that it's going to be very useful and enlightening to me, in that I think it's going to be hard to stay creative, especially as I transition into third-year rotations. And so I'm hoping that this sustains me, and I'll definitely share any cool lessons and quotes that I pick up from this. And my other gift, slightly ironic given the times now, but I got the board game Pandemic. I was introduced to this game a couple years ago in my gap years by a good friend, and it's one of the few games that is cooperative instead of antagonistic, which I really appreciate. The premise is that all the players have certain roles and skills that they have as part of a multidisciplinary team that's trying to fight off a global pandemic. I'm looking forward to playing this with my friends, especially as kind of like a chill wind down activity from a good day of studying. Over the weekend I watched 2 movies. I watched Toy Story 4 and Hidden Figures. I really loved Toy Story 4. I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't think that Toy Story needed another installment, but I think that with the story that it did have, Toy Story 4 does so much with that story and the themes that it presents. I think this movie does a fantastic job of working with themes of self-actualization, the fear of abandonment, finding your most authentic identity, and also the idea of freedom from codependent relationships. And I think that Toy Story's greatest strength is that it tells the story from the point of view of toys. And they have such a unique point of view, literally, because they are objects in our life that essentially are there to bring us joy, and that seems to be their main purpose. But because in this universe, they also have their own feelings, it just brings up a lot of cool, interesting intersections of, what it means to have fulfilled your purpose as a toy, and by extension, like for us, like what does it really mean to have fulfilled our purpose as a human, as a friend, as a partner. And I think that's really cool to find in a family movie like Toy Story. Yeah, so all in all, I didn't think it was a necessary addition to the series, but now that it exists, I think it's a very worthy sequel of the Toy Story lineage, and yeah, I highly recommend it. I also watched Hidden Figures, which is about the African-American women who played a pivotal part in doing so much groundwork for the NASA program in calculating all the equations that made all the space flights possible. I think if I were to give this movie a rating, I would give the story like a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and then I would give the style and execution about a 3 out of 5 stars. So I think seeing that narrative up on screen is extremely empowering and important to have. In terms of style and delivery, however, it kind of just feels like a average Hollywood movie that's made to, be inspirational and feel good. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just from a craft point of view, it's not the most inspiring to me. And lastly, this week was Super Tuesday, and honestly, so much has happened within the last 5 days or so. It's kind of crazy. And I have a lot of thoughts about the whole process, but I think that none of those thoughts are really clear enough at the moment to really detail extensively on this vlog. But I did want to share one podcast episode that I have found useful in terms of thinking about the political process and thinking about political parties. So the podcast is Freakonomics. You might know them from the book or the podcast or whatever. And the episode is called America's Hidden Duopoly. I'll put the link in the description box so you can check it out. I'll let the podcast do most of the talking because by no means am I a political scholar or an economist or anything like that. But the episode talks about how if you look at our modern political parties and you were to analyze them from the lens of corporations and business, you would see that the political parties are actually kind of monopolies that are competing against each other. And so this episode then kind of talks about that feeling that people have that the political system is broken and that it's not working for them. And it argues that the political system isn't actually broken, but that these political parties are actually kind of huge corporations that have been specifically designed to self-perpetuate themselves and grow in power and to work in the interests of the people who stand to benefit the most from being in the parties. I thought this podcast had some excellent points of analysis, and it even lays out a little bit of first steps in terms of electoral reforms that could possibly reshape how elections are run. And I think this is a good stepping stone in terms of getting a lens of class analysis in terms of the political system and being able to see that the political parties that we have aren't just kind of groups that we identify with, but they are actually like highly manufactured political engines, I suppose, that can be used by certain people in power, kind of like a ruling class, to further their interests or to keep their power and to kind of minimize any big changes in terms of that power. And it is kind of disheartening to kind of see all the techniques and machinations that are involved that give kind of the masses of people less power over the political direction of the country. For example, you have problems of gerrymandering, voter suppression, and weird convoluted primary rules. But at the end of the day, I think that it's really important to be at least aware of the systems that exist, because that's the first step in being able to fight and to dismantle any systems that aren't really working for the broad masses of people. So yeah, I definitely recommend that episode. Definitely do your own research and keep educating yourself. It's definitely not an easy process, and political education can take definitely months, if not years, or a lifetime really. Cool, I'll see you in a couple days. I have my next bouldering video coming out on Sunday, so look out for that. Thank you again for your support and your time and just listening to me talk. I'll catch you next time. Take care.